Hello preppers, welcome to the channel or welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, UK Urban Prepper, it does exactly what it says on the tin. So today we're just doing a bit of a news update with what's going on in the world, especially related to anything we're prepping for. Now this isn't your normal BBC News, so there's no feel-good stories here. So if you're not interested, now's the time to leave. But we will start with one of the major things that I prep for as a prepper, which I've done videos about in the past, and that is solar flares. Potentially same preps would be relevant for EMP attacks and things like that. So it's about protecting electronics in our Faraday cage, which you can actually see behind me here, one of my boxes there. I've got videos on how to make them super cheap and super easy. So we're keeping an eye on the sun every day. I check this. It's been constantly active in the last year. So all through 2023 and 2024, we have had 0 days without a sunspot. Now, sunspots are signifiers of the coronal holes and the CMEs that can come out, hit the earth, and not crisp us all, ideally, but the Carrington event, which was a high X-class solar flare, which took out all the telegraphs, stuff like that. This day and age could be devastating at the right level, taking out our infrastructure, making it years without electricity. If we get a direct hit on something like that. So this is why we keep an eye on it. This is the current state. As of right now, we're at 11 o'clock at night on the 24th when I'm recording this. And you can see quite big clusters of sunspots. Usually there's 1, 2, something like that. But over the last couple of weeks, it's been like this the whole time. You can see down at the bottom, I'm pointing the wrong way, but down at the bottom, 3555 and 3561. That creates that cluster at the bottom there, 2 sets of sunspots. That's quite a big cluster. We got a few flashes off that, but only M-class. M-class create them lovely auroras or the northern lights in the sky in certain places. If you use spaceweather.com, it's great because they do actually give you aurora alerts. So if you're interested in just the pretty colors, you can go and find them and find out when they're hitting. What we will look out for is major flares, which are not M-class, they are X-class. And when you start to get into X-class, that's when you start to get disruption of signals and electricity and anything like that. So we hope to not see that, but that is what we watch for. Now, this one in the top middle of the screen here, this is sunspot 3559. This is quite big in comparison to what we've seen over the past few weeks. So they are getting bigger each time. Every time I look at the side on the left when this is happening, it looks like, oh, it's calming down. And then something like this comes around the corner. Luckily, this is only spout out very minor solar flares that could glance us, and they're M-class, so we're good. But the reason for my concern, I'll show you this side by side. This here, this grey right here, is the Carrington event. The Carrington event is the one, just honestly, look it up. Look up the Carrington event. It happened at a time when the only technology about was telegraph, luckily. But when it hit this flare, operators reported telegraph signals going on their own, telegraph wires bursting into flames. It pretty much took out that infrastructure for a short period of time. But in this day and age where everything is digital, everything's electronic, it could be devastating. So a side-by-side comparison, these dark black parts of this, looks like a little unicorn horn on the left there. That's where we see the black on ours. So it's very similar in the amount almost, a bit less. And obviously the orange is where the gray is. So these spots are so visible now, you don't need a telescope to see them. Apparently with the right solar glasses, like you have for looking at solar eclipses, you can actually see these. So that's the kind of scale we get into. So at the moment, touch wood, it's okay, but watch this space, it's getting worse and worse. So if this is the solar maximum, we could still be waiting to see the peak of that. Okay, let's get back to Earth. So on Earth, everything's kicking off all over the place. You'll have seen bits and bats on your local news and what they are willing to report. So I'm just going to go through a few bits. This is a good source on Twitter, or X it's now known. It's CENTCOM, which is US Central Command. So they have got a really good update, live update of what's going on in the world, especially regards the US military. Obviously, they can only put so much on there. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell the enemy where they're moving to, etc. But this one is Houthis attack commercial shipping vessel with anti-ship missiles. So they give you the time, 2 p.m. on the 24th, which is the local time there. Iranian-backed Houthi terrorists fired 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles from Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen towards the US flag-owned and operated container ship Maersk Detroit, transiting the Gulf of Aden. 1 missile impacted in the sea. The other 2 missiles were successfully engaged and shot down by the USS Gravely. There were no reported injuries or damage to the ship. So that's good news at the end of it, but they're getting bolder and bolder with these attacks, because previously it was any Israel like flags flying or operated ships or ships they knew that were related to Israel as part of their defense of Gaza. But this was US owned, operated and flagged. So there's no excuse to say we thought this was something else. So yes, on a knife edge, I believe, I'm not sure if it was a different president in at the moment in the United States, I think this would have all already kicked off. I think there's a lot of holding back from the United States at the moment. With that in mind, with everything that's going on with Ukraine and the stuff going on with Gaza and Israel, Reuters are reporting NATO to hold the biggest drill since the Cold War with 90,000 troops. 90,000 troops. The point of the exercise is NATO is launching the exercise to rehearse how US troops could reinforce European allies in countries bordering Russia. Okay, so they're basically saying this is what we're expecting. We need to train for it. You don't hold, I mean, the 90,000 troops, it could be just an exercise, but it's also a good way to say, look how many troops we've got in the area. Behave. So often these military exercises, especially of this scale, a bit of a flexing on each side, and so which is where we kind of get our Cold War similarity. With regards to Russia and Ukraine, the war has been ongoing for quite some time now. Horrendous scenes we've seen all over our news channels, all over our social media feeds. We know what's going on there, and we know that at the moment, it's just hardware support that we're offering. So how this will end, we don't know. But it's difficult. I didn't realize how difficult it is to get information out regarding this. So I follow NY Prepper, who is a YouTuber on here. Go and check out NY Prepper. He does emergency updates all the time. I never miss one of them. Some of this stuff is on his recent updates. But yeah, it's good if you want the constant updates. I don't like to do it every single day. Don't like to promote fear, only if it's something really relevant. So he had a tweet that he showed, and I tried to find the tweet, and I got this account withheld. And I thought, that's a bit weird. So then I was trying to look through other sources, like RT, account withheld. In response to a legal demand. So finding the actual information that is not part of the UK or the EU agenda is very difficult sometimes. You can find obscure references. I think that's why a lot of preppers get told, oh, they're getting this from some random newspaper in the middle of nowhere, the sources aren't reliable. That's because the reliable sources in this country are censored. So just, yeah, watch out for that. So we got that. That was on Twitter. Thought it might just be a Twitter thing. So I started looking through some other links, and I was getting it on all sorts. This content is not available in your country or region. There is no reason for that. It's not like we're streaming a football game. This is just news, but censored. censored everywhere. Anyway, you do eventually find a few of them. And the story I was actually looking for at the time is this one. Russia accuses Kiev of downing a military transport plane, killing all 74 on board. What you see there is a screen grab of a video. So there is a full video that's circulating online. I'm not going to show it on here. You can find it very easily, of that plane going down, which is horrible to see. Doesn't matter who was on board. But Russia's military transport plane crashed on Wednesday in the Bordon region near Ukraine, and Moscow accused Kiev of shooting it down, saying all 74 people aboard were killed, including 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war headed for a swap. So Russia's offered no evidence, and the Ukraine did not immediately confirm or deny it. I believe they have now. I believe one saying it's one saying it's the other, tit for tat, but it does sound like another point of escalation of this. And all these things just point to justifying the next level of attack, or we're justifying this bombardment because this happened. We're justifying this retaliation level because this happened. And it's just building. And it's scary, especially in the nuclear age. Regards to Russia, there's signals out at the moment that people are picking up on very long range radios, and the signal is familiar, and it is the Russian dead hand system which seems to be activated, which, if for those who don't know, there's loads you can find on this. Again, find your own information by all means, but the dead hand system is basically a series of sensors across the country, measuring seismic activity, radioactivity, things like that, that can register when a nuclear strike has took place on Russian soil, and immediately sends a request of information to like Russian command posts and bunkers, and without any sort of response, if it believes, oh, they're gone, there's no one in charge, and it launches everything it possibly can, all their nuclear arsenal, at pre-designated targets. So it's a dead man switch, hence the name. Scary that this is on, but this is, again, that is one of their nuclear deterrents, I suppose, in a way. But the fact that they've got this on, does that mean they're putting the deterrent on to say, we're going to make more advances onto different countries, but if you launch nukes at us, then you're all dead? Scary. Very scary times. With regards to Russia as well, and how this becomes worldwide, not just in Israel and Gaza and Russia and Ukraine. This is another third point. There's 3 or 4 points of where this wars are kicking off. This is why it's becoming World War III. One that I haven't touched on, and I won't be doing in this one, is the China situation, but we'll do that in another video. So North Korea, the UK have sent UN experts photographs of North Korean shipments to Russia, and basically what the photos are of a Russian-owned container ship at the port in Pyongyang, loading up with supplies. Now, we knew this was happening with shells. We thought I think most of the thoughts were it was going by rail, but yeah, this is shipments full of shells heading towards Ukraine. Now, the scary thing with this is, and what we don't know fully, no matter what rumors you hear, is what has been offered in return. What have they offered North Korea in return for these services? I don't think it'll be straight up money, although they're a poor country, North Korea. His priority is not money and feeding his nation. It's constantly an arms race with him. So if it's not nuclear weapons, which you'd think it wouldn't be, because I don't think even Putin would want North Korea having that nuclear capability at this time, because they're so unpredictable, it could be just an alliance. But an alliance is even more dangerous. The fact that South Korea is closely allied with America, USA, and if that peninsula kicks off, the North Korea, South Korea one, which it has started to escalate, more random shots fired across each way. If that escalates into full-scale war, then Russia has to be involved if they're an ally, and USA has to be involved in ally. And there we have it. That is your another match head, another tipping point. But are North Korea going to go to war? Now, this is mixed opinions from experts. Al Jazeera has literally said that is North Korea's Kim Jong-un planning a war. Experts have conflicting views. So it's a full article. You can read this on Al Jazeera. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll summarize in the fact that Kim's taken a number of provocative steps recently that have attracted attention. This is nothing new. He's done this over years. So an all-out war against population that was regarded as family was harder to defend ideological, especially if we consider that North Korean nationalism was ethnic, with heavy racial undertones. So people are saying that he couldn't go to all-out war with South Korea without compromising his own situation. And others believe this is why he's making deals with Russia, because he's got the backing to then unite Korea, as it were. And what better way to display that than tearing down a huge monument? So they've reportedly torn down the monument to peace and reunification with South Korea. The Arch of Reunification once stood 30 meters tall and envisaged a potential reunion of the Korean Peninsula, but Kim Jong-un recently called it an eyesore, and now satellite image appears to show that it has vanished. So these are the satellite imagery here. And yeah, I'm not sure. You probably have to be an expert to study it, but you can see there it looks like rubble afterwards. This would be where the arch is here. See the 2 points over the road, and there you go. So that's about it for this one. So we don't want to go too deep, but let's summarize. The sun's looking scary. Nothing we can do about that. There's no negotiating with that. That could be a natural disaster if that happens. What people don't tell you, what preppers don't tell you, is we do have a lot of contingencies for stuff like that in this country already, with capacitors in the UK on our power lines. So it would take quite an impact for it to really affect us. Regards World War III, I think we're in it. I'm not going to say it's going to kick off soon. I think it's happening. It's happening. Whether we acknowledge it or not, it's open on 3 fronts at the moment, potentially a 4th front with China. It's happening. It's already going on. It's how involved are we at the moment is the question, and what can we do about it? So keep prepping. Make sure you have a plan in place for you and your family if any of these things happen, and what you're prepping for. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, and I try and reply to as many as I can when I can. But yeah, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching. If you're new, hit subscribe. There's some practical content coming. It's not all doom and gloom, I promise you. See you in the next video. Bye.